Tech companies have traditionally been at the forefront of revolutionizing office space.
Apple Park is designed to be seamless with nature. It's open, transparent, it brings the outside in.
Open floor plans have become the norm in many industries after tech companies touted the advantage of this arrangement for collaboration and innovation. And perks like in-office gyms, childcare centers, and communal cafeterias have also gained traction as companies compete to attract top talent. But coronavirus may make this type of work environment a thing of the past, at least for the near future, as companies try to balance communal work with safety. In an investigation recently published by South Korea's Centers for Disease Control, out of the 216 people who worked on the floor of a call center, 94 people tested positive for the virus. And employees are understandably concerned. A recent survey of over 2,000 full-time employees showed that over half believe their worksite will need to be restructured to create more personal space, while 49% believe that open offices and workspaces are no longer conducive to their health and wellness.
It's never a good idea to force your employees under fear of losing their jobs to come to work. So employers will have to give employees some kind of flexibility.
Tech companies, like everyone else, will need to adapt before they can bring their workforce back into the office. When it comes to reopening offices, it seems that everyone from Google to Twitter to Facebook is taking a measured approach.
We've made the decision that we're going to be on the slow end of having people come back to work. We've already started opening up some of the offices for certain roles that really can only be done there, but we'll open up a little more slowly over time than might otherwise be possible, just in order to make sure that the folks who really need to be able to stay open kind of have right of way on that.
Facebook is asking employees who can do their jobs remotely to do so through the end of the year, and canceling all company gatherings of over 50 people through June 2021.
I think we're going to be the most forward-leaning company on remote work at our scale, for sure. And the plan that we have initially involves a couple of big steps. The first is aggressively opening up remote hiring. And we're going to couple that with a more measured approach to opening permanent remote work for existing employees.
Zuckerberg predicts that 50% of the company's employees could be working remotely within the next 5 to 10 years. An internal company survey also found that of those interested in full-time remote work, 75% expressed some interest in moving to a different city. But Zuckerberg warned that if employees wanted to move to a different location, they may face pay cuts that would reflect the lower cost of living in those areas. Google told its employees that it will slowly reopen its offices starting July 6th, beginning with 10% building occupancy and eventually building up to 30% occupancy by September. Though Google didn't offer specifics, Pichai said in an email to employees that offices would have rigorous health and safety measures in place to ensure social distancing and sanitization procedures are followed. For most employees, going back into the office will remain voluntary until the end of the year. In the meantime, Google is covering up to $1,000 for employees' home equipment and office furniture. But the company has warned employees that it will not pay for perks like lunch for those working from home. Although Amazon's warehouse employees have worked throughout the pandemic to keep deliveries coming for customers stuck in lockdown, Amazon's corporate workers have been working from home since early March. The company has said that any of its corporate workers can continue to work from home until October 2nd. For employees that wish to return to the office, Amazon said it would put in place safety measures including physical distancing, deep cleaning, temperature checks, and the availability of face coverings and hand sanitizer. Apple reportedly started to bring some workers back to its 2.8 million square foot campus in May, including some hardware and software engineers. Some employees are working from the Apple campus only a few days a week as the building gradually reopens. When workers arrive, they will have the option of taking a COVID-19 test, but temperature checks are required. Apple has also closed many break rooms and kitchens, is limiting the number of people in elevators, and asking employees to wear masks. The company has also been opening some of its retail stores across the country, with requirements for customers to pass temperature checks and wear masks before they enter. In the most drastic case, Twitter told its employees that they can work from home forever. The company is also offering to pay for home office expenses, though Twitter was embracing remote work even prior to the COVID outbreak.
We are a global service that requires global perspective. For us to continue to thrive and be valuable to people around the world, we need people from around the world to work with us. Our concentration in San Francisco is not serving us any longer, and we will strive to be a far more distributed workforce, which we will use to improve our execution.
The trend of people leaving the pricey tech hubs of New York and San Francisco was already in motion, even before the coronavirus outbreak. And with remote work becoming mainstream, it'll likely accelerate.
The sort of workplace is becoming more highly skilled, and that means that your typical worker is turning more into a knowledge worker. And where and when they do their work is less of a concern than it ever has been.
Having a significant workforce that can work remotely anywhere in the country, or even from another country, has some serious implications, especially when it comes to taxes.
Many states have rules that say, here's what it means to be doing business in our state. And if you do any of these things, we have the jurisdiction to subject you to a business income tax. One of those rules is called threshold nexus.
Threshold nexus can be established in a number of ways. For example, states can tax a company if it exceeds a certain amount in sales to in-state customers, or if it has a significant amount of property or payroll in the state. Generally, a single employee is all that is needed to open a company up to paying taxes in a state, though in some circumstances, a physical presence is not even required.
So when you think about the remote employees right now, the big issue that you have is on the company side, they're going to be paying tax in corporate income tax in more states than they ever have before, in states they maybe never even contemplated doing so.
Amid COVID-19, some states including Mississippi, Massachusetts, and New Jersey are suspending these nexus rules. But it's not known how long this suspension will last. Plus, with the drain on social resources, states may be more motivated than ever to tax businesses.
I think that the states, if you collectively look at it, have said that the COVID-19 crisis is going to put them in a $500 billion deficit. They've got to find some way to recoup that. And this might be one way that they do it.
And then there are taxes the employee has to pay, which also vary widely from state to state.
From an employee side, you're going to have withholding, that withholding tax can double up and maybe triple up. And depending upon the state rules, you might not be able to get that money back at the end of the year.
Remote work is nothing new, but the U.S. has never experienced dealing with remote workers at such scale. Kirkow thinks that now is a good time for the federal government to step in and establish a unilateral set of nexus rules, at least for the duration of the crisis.
If we could get that out of the federal government, it would do a lot to alleviate the burden on businesses. And I think ultimately it would do a lot to alleviate the uncertainties that we have.
And then there's the question of how companies' investments, like new software for employees, will be taxed.
You could get credits and incentives for the investments. It's another item that could potentially give you nexus in a state. And from a sales tax perspective, you have the question of what's the taxability and what state gets the tax.
All of these employees working from home begs the question, what will happen to tech companies' massive campuses? Over the past few years, they've made headlines with increasingly showy real estate acquisitions. Though there haven't been plans to completely close down offices, there are clues that expansion may slow. In late May, Facebook said it's reducing the office space of its 50-plus acre developmental proposal in Menlo Park, from 1.75 million square feet to 1.25 million square feet. This will translate to about 2,550 fewer employees in the building.
I think that there's a big challenge right now, which is that a lot of opportunities are only available in cities in these metropolitan areas, which means that people kind of need to choose between the lifestyle that they want and sometimes would need to move to a city and leave that in order to have good economic opportunities. But it's not clear why that should have to be the case. And I think something like remote work can help on that.
Still, Zuckerberg acknowledges that recreating tech culture remotely will be difficult.
In general, I think one of the big challenges with remote work that we're all going to have to work through is the feeling of kind of building social bonds, building culture, and creativity together.
When asked whether or not Google will continue with plans to build out its new campus in Mountain View, CEO Sundar Pichai told Wired that he expects that the company's existing footprint will not be an issue and that there's a lot of growth planned ahead. Apple, which unveiled its meticulously designed spaceship campus just 3 years ago, has many open floor plan work areas, which the company may need to redesign before bringing back its entire workforce. When these tech campuses do open back up, employees will likely find them looking very different from the way they remember. Commercial real estate firm Cushman & Wakefield has shifted its business model to guide clients through this unprecedented time. The firm says it has helped 10,000 businesses and almost 1 million people in China transition back to the office. Based on that experience and data from the World Health Organization, Cushman & Wakefield constructed a mock-up of what it calls the 6 Feet office in Amsterdam to demonstrate what a safe office space may look like.
The 6-foot rule in terms of social distancing is really all we have at the moment for protection. So with that in mind, and understanding that people won't have time to reconstruct their office, they're not going to have that ability. So most of what we are recommending in our playbook is you're able to do at zero cost.
Some practices the company recommends include installing plexiglass partitions between workspaces and putting a piece of paper over desks that can be discarded every day, as well as only walking in one direction in hallways and not using your hands to touch elevator buttons.
Organizations are in a cash preservation mode, so the want to sort of deliver a lot of capital into reimagining the workplace is not something that they're doing. They want to try to figure out, how do we make do with what we have, de-densify, and make sure that people are following whatever the de-densification standards that we're putting in place are.
Cushman & Wakefield suggests that companies institute staggered start times and limit the number of people in elevators and conference rooms. The company also believes some people will continue to work from home, but not the majority, and not always.
Tech companies are going to continue to grow, and tech companies are going to continue to want the collaborative effort of their employees done by and large in person, even as efficient as we've become from home. To build a collaborative environment, to build a brand, to build loyalty, to build trust, and to create innovative breakthroughs, that's going to be done with a collective group, and that's going to be done in the office for the most part.
And then there are the high-tech solutions. Brooklyn-based StrongArm Tech created a wearable device initially intended to help warehouse workers avoid injuries. But the company has now reconfigured the gadget to keep workers safe amid COVID.
The Fuse is able to encourage social distancing using its sensors that communicate with each other. As two users approach each other, we have haptic feedback that's delivered as they start to encroach on that 6-foot parameter that was indicated by the CDC as the proper social distancing guidelines.
The system is also capable of contact tracing.
With contact tracing, we're able to discreetly understand every single person that individual of question had come in contact with. And we do that because we're built in a time series database. So we're able to get forensic and understand down to the millisecond all the interaction of that individual. And that's helping us build better protocols moving forward and better reopening strategies for clients as we get more data into that system.
Estimote is another company advertising the use of its wearable beacons as a safeguard against the spread of coronavirus. Like StrongArm's tech, Estimote's beacons also vibrate if employees get too close to one another and keep track of interactions. The company has previously worked with the likes of Amazon, Apple, and Nike to help them track the movements of their products and people. Density also makes a device that counts how many people pass through a hallway or congregate in a conference room. A new version of the gadget will send alerts to staff if a particular area becomes too crowded. Even Microsoft has partnered with United Health Group to make a coronavirus screening app. Both companies are already using the app, which is basically a daily symptom screener with their employees, and have opened it up to others for free. Other solutions being discussed are installing temperature checks at office entryways, which are already commonplace in China, and using ultraviolet light to disinfect high-traffic areas. Amazon is already using thermal cameras to take the temperature of its warehouse employees. In a clip shared with 60 Minutes, the company also showed a prototype UV light robot, which could be used to disinfect Amazon's warehouses and Whole Foods stores. In the end, what the future of the tech office looks like may be up to the employees as much as it's up to the companies.
Corporations broadly are going to find themselves in roughly 3 categories. People who are literally cannot go to work because they have kids and so forth and so on. People who don't want to go to work, or they are worried about exposure because they have comorbidities and so forth. And people who are just dying to go to work, right? They just can't wait to get out of the house. So my guess is that you're going to see pods of people which will organize themselves so that this group will be over in this remote place. This group will be in the central office. These people will never come into either because they have legitimate fears until this thing gets resolved, which is a long time. And that these little teams will organize in virtual pods and they'll work it out. So employers will have to give employees some kind of flexibility.